Delaware, it's Thursday, October 17th. I'm Peter MacArthur, and from time to time, we'd like to take a close look at the jobs market and your potential place in it, especially if you're seeking employment. So when we do that, we call in Chris Burkhard, Placer Staffing in Newark. Hi, Chris. Good morning. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, it's terrific to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure thing. Lots happened since we talked last. I think first and foremost, let's dive in a little bit into the latest jobs report, which showed 254,000 new jobs created, far and above, Chris, what analysts had expected. Can you kind of break down for us a little bit about what industries contributed to the new jobs and where the growth occurred?
I think a lot of people were surprised at the number, Pete. A couple of insights about the whole country, and then I'll dive a bit into Delaware. We blew away expectations by 150,000 jobs. It's a lot of jobs. Unemployment went down. They even adjusted the summer numbers up by 70,000 jobs. So this whole thing has been very fluid. It's being constantly adjusted. There's even some thoughts that it's really hard to trust a month, but you kind of have to look at the quarter as they make these adjustments to feel like you get the trends. But what I keep hearing from where I sit in staffing, I hear every day, if their numbers are so high, where are the jobs? So let me break it down a little bit because I think it's really kind of interesting. Well, hospitality leads the way, 80,000 jobs. That's food and beverage roles. That's hotels. It's a pretty high number. Healthcare grew by 45,000 jobs, but that's not a typical month. That's less than we've averaged for many quarters in a row. So think hospital, home healthcare. There's an awful lot of growth there, and that was kind of a muted month. Government, you think federal, but no, it's state and local level. Construction grew. That doesn't surprise. But then there's modest growth in white-collar roles and in IT, which has been down. And surprising to me, modest growth in retail when you start to think about holidays and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's relatively muted. Now, manufacturing and warehouse and transportation lost jobs. That's the second month in a row. And in my industry, even temporary staffing was down again. So interesting trends, healthcare, government, hospitality, social services, but we really need technology, white-collar jobs, manufacturing. We need those to come back. Now, Delaware's got a nice story. 5,100 more jobs this month than last month. A lot of growth in health services, as mentioned, some growth in construction, and even IT was up. So it's a good sign locally. There's a few more Delawareans on unemployment, but I think the headline here is that it's really hard to judge it in the month. You kind of got to look at long-term trends.
Yeah, bigger picture, a lot to unpack there, certainly. There was a time, and it doesn't seem that long ago, I guess probably it was, where if you were looking for a job, Chris, you hit the newspaper and you hit the classified section, you went down, you get a pen or a marker in your hand, and you circle the ones you might have interest in. We know people don't look for jobs that way anymore, but what are some of the latest job trends when it comes to searching for a position?
Well, I'm really going to shock you because it's not the traditional search like you're describing.
Yeah.
Although when you used to open the newspaper, you would see placers everywhere because that's the only place we put jobs. And of course, it's a much more complicated world today. But first is more people are becoming entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. Startup applications are up 50%. And here's the interesting side of where does this matter with job search? 7 out of 10 jobs are created with small business. So when you're looking at work today and you're thinking of, you drive down I-95 and you see the really big company, well, 7 out of 10 jobs are coming from companies that you probably don't know the name of. Yeah. And I think that requires, a different job search, Pete, and a different set of expectations and skills. It's much more entrepreneurial, and it's different. So, we're not going to work at, our grandfather's big company anymore. It's going to be in a different company. And it's kind of interesting. Here we are with, an election a couple weeks away, and both our governors were entrepreneurs. We're even going to have an entrepreneurial spirit in that seat in this place. And I think that's, I represent entrepreneurs quite a bit. I think that's a unique situation. Another thing, gig work is way up, but not temp work. people are doing much more of your Uber kind of thing, but in all jobs, everything seems to be bid out on a task or a project. And I think that's really impacting job searches because, yes, people can have part-time jobs in those things, but it's in a very different delivery system than it used to be, Pete. It's an app, and you pick up a shift, or you pick up a task, or you grab a project.
You hit on this a little bit when we were breaking down the jobs numbers, the increasing pressure on white-collar jobs, traditional office jobs. What trends do you see unfolding in that space, Chris?
Well, we get asked these questions. My professional team gets asked these questions every day because, this is where a lot of people's skill sets lie. Right. The past 18 months, there's been a real slowdown where organizations are kind of reevaluating their talent needs in this area. So during the pandemic, it seems like a long time ago when we were talking, Pete, but there was this real scarcity of talent, so companies were stockpiling it. Now I hear that they're trying to do that old adage, more with less. So that's the big picture. Don't get me wrong, you still need healthcare workers and bookkeepers and AI software engineers, but there's 4 trends that are really impacting that white-collar job. Everything is being automated and digitized. So it doesn't matter if you're in customer service or human resources or management. There's very little paperwork. It's much more thinking. It's much more analysis. It's much more those kinds of things. Another trend is the workforce, in order to stay in these jobs, has to be reskilled, and usually in technology. No surprise. It's just a different shift. The third thing is this hybrid work is here to stay. And let me tell you, it impacts 40% of the workforce, and it's very stable. I don't know, Pete, if you know people that are in that environment, but you go into the office, but your whole team's on a Zoom call,
yes,
or, you go in for an hour. I think it's really hard. It's really great to have a balanced life, but I will tell you, it's really hard to manage your career, get ahead, build relationships, and advance yourself in this strange new world.
The next part of our analysis, I think, is really next level, Chris, and I know this is far more than just a sidebar issue for you. And I'm talking here about, the stresses of life and ways to practice gratitude. Can you talk a little bit about what a gratitude practice is? How can someone get started on one of those?
Pete, I can't imagine that anybody listening right now has any daily stress. I can't imagine, right? So this doesn't apply to anybody, right? So, but practicing gratitude is a way to take care of yourself, to give you energy for the life and job that you want. So, some people work out, they eat right, they try and get enough sleep. This is just another option. And I get asked to address this with groups of workers all the time. So a gratitude practice is taking some time daily to think about a couple of things that you're really thankful for or grateful for. And, the more specific, the better. If you looked at the moon last night, oh my goodness, what a great view. Maybe it's a flower out your window, or it's a child's smile at the bus stop this morning. There's lots of different ways that people do it. Some people journal it. Some people have apps for it. They take pictures. But if you get good at it, you simply talk it out, and you're probably letting someone know who's important to you that, you're grateful for them.
Yeah.
So, it's a mood builder. It helps relationships, and it makes you happy. And then try to do it every day. It's like a workout. If you do it once, it probably just makes you sore. So you need time to give a benefit to it. But it really can work.
Let me ask you this. Where did you kind of develop, if you will, this appreciation of a gratitude practice? Was this something, for instance, I know that your father founded Placers. Was this something that he instilled? Was it something that you kind of had to find your own place in because of the stresses of your job? How did it come about, Chris?
Pete, it's a great question. I work a lot with entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And there is a very high level of mental health in entrepreneurship. It's almost 2-to-1 with the regular workforce. So when I am an entrepreneur and have my own stressors, this is something I do every day. But when I work with people that are, trying to build things, being that founder of a business, I'm always looking for tools to help people.
Yeah.
And, so whether it's someone learning to meditate or, do other things, this is just a reality that it's a stressful world. I know it feels a bit like it's hocus pocus, right? It's like, why would I? But in reality, we're all looking for a way, for an edge. We're all looking for a way to feel better. So I've just adapted to find solutions to problems with the relationships that I come in contact with. And, no, this was not something that was originally a part of Placers. I learned a lot from other generations, but, my father built a business, worked really hard. I've had to find a way to have balance because there's that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. I think we all deal with this. I hope people will everybody needs something that can help them have their best day. I just think this is something that really works.
Sounds good. Chris Burkhard, Placer Staffing. You want to find out more? myplacers.com is a good place to do that. Always a pleasure, Chris. I appreciate your time and the information today and giving us some good food for thought on this Thursday.
Look forward to next time, Pete.
You bet.